from outer space. Good morning, this is economics, and please put in the chat how you're feeling today. Oh, Catherine, please get a blanket or something. Stay warm. I'm going to drink some tea. I'm sorry to hear you're not feeling well. Feeling morning-ish? Good morning. Great. Josh is excited. All right, let's jump right in. This is being recorded for learning and training purposes. Josh, will you please read the agenda? Unless someone else is brave enough to say, why does Josh always get to read? And then you can just click your raise your hand. Yes, yes. Okay, Josh is it.
Agenda, assignments this week, next week. See California State Standards, Technology and Economics, Development, Methods, Producers, Productivity, Communications, E-commerce, Disruption, Exit Ticket, and Reminders.
Excellent. Alrighty then, so that's what we're doing today. Let's jump right in. So for the rest of the class, we'll be discussing the impact of small mammals on the economy through eating whole grain snack bars. Is that true? Is that really true? No, it's not. So what is this animal? You can put that in the chat, and then give me yes, thank you, Josh. And then give me a green check mark if you finished 1.09 quiz and all the assignments leading up to that. That was Friday's assignment. It's not a squirrel, it's a chipmunk. It's like a squirrel, but much smaller. That's actually like a scale right there. That's actual size. Some of them do get a little taller than that, a little bigger. It's all right. They're kind of the same thing. It's just like a tiny squirrel with stripes. Maybe a little cuter. I like squirrels. I think they're cute. We got gray and brown squirrels where I live, or beige. Anyway, green check mark if you finish all those things. Red X if you haven't. And remember that the unit test is Thursday. Or is it Friday? Thursday we're going to be going over the 1.1 for the 1.11 for that quiz. And then Friday we're going over the the test. So we're kind of a day behind, a couple days behind, but I'd rather go over stuff in class that you hopefully already read, so that you know a little bit about what we're talking about. So if you finish on time the unit test on Thursday, that's great. You'll be like super student on Friday, and hopefully we'll be playing a game or something like that. It's Miss Carol's turn to make the PowerPoint for Friday, and that's enough of that. Okay. So, excuse me, California State Standards, our learning goals right now are understanding common economic terms and concepts and economic reasoning. And then throughout the course we'll be getting more into issues of international trade and stuff like that. But we are going to look at today, down here in the in-depth stuff, efficiency, production efficiency, and how it influences trade, and then the impact that that has. Okay? Hopefully it's Kahoot or Jeopardy. Now it's your turn to warm yourselves up by activity. What do you think the word technology means? So everyone raise your hand and then take the number. Gabriel's number 1. So Gabriel, if you can do number 20, since I already wrote a number 1 an example. So whatever box corresponds to the number under your name, please write in the box. If you do not have your hand raised, I'm going to move you into the inactive room. So please do that. And you got 1 minute to fill in the box, and you need whiteboard tools. So there's the whiteboard tools, and then 1 minute on the timer. Go. Oh, I have to set up the inactive room. So anyone with their hand not raised will be going to the inactive room. All right. All right, so I'll give you a few more seconds for you to finish that off. This is our participation check for today. And raise your hand if you want to stay in the room. Got a lot of inactive people here. I got to move out while you guys keep finishing that up. And would someone be willing to read a select few of those responses from students? Someone could read a few of those just to get a little sampling. Today, okay, I'll do it. I'll do it. Actually, let's see, who wants extra credit that doesn't normally read? Yes, Josh always wants to, but let's try to get someone else in here. Josh is all reliable. We really appreciate them. No, just a couple, Dustin. Just read a couple. A sampling. Okay, Jessamine, the first one to start reading wins. Go.
Alrighty, so I'm going to just read number 3, and that says, anything that can be used as a means to achieve something. Number 6 says, tools that help us solve problems with more ease and allows us to make general life easier. 11 says, machinery and engineering from science, like computers and phones. 14 says any device or method that helps improve society. 16 says advanced tools for better performance, and 20 says tools that help us solve our problems and make things easier.
Excellent. Thank you for doing that. Okay, I got to remove 2 students from the class here for inactivity. Okay. Excellent. So thank you for doing that. I just want to do some burpees right now. Did anybody see that movie Jumanji? There's that funny burpee scene. You guys know what a burpee is? That's where you it's where you stand up. Here, I'll demonstrate. You guys need burpees. Okay, this is a burpee. Here we go. Okay, that was burpee training. So what you do is you stand up, then you drop down into a push-up, and then you jump up and do like a volleyball block. Whoa, I'm seeing stars right now. That's awesome. Jump up, hands up in the air. Repeat. All right, let's give it a few more minutes here. Okay, wait. Let me take a screenshot of this. You guys did great participation there, and I need to record this. Oh. Excellent work. Okay, let's move on. So, here's the definition and application of scientific technology or practical purposes, especially in industry, but it's also any tools. Like originally in the olden times, in Paleolithic times, people used a rock to break open a coconut, or they used a stick to dig up a root or a lizard out of it, or a squirrel, a chipmunk out of its hole to eat it. People just eat things like that. It's, And now we're talking more about electronic technology, right? So some technology development makes an already powerful technology even more effective. How did people communicate long distances before the telegram? How did people communicate long distances before the telegram? Please answer this question in the chat. How did people communicate? Snail mail. It's true. Horseback. What else? Someone in the last class had some interesting memories of things. Letters, very good. Horseback. Horses and mailmen. An owl. Yeah, I remember I used to just go to the neighbor's house and say, "Do you want to play?" Pigeons. That's the one. Gabriel, that's the one. Pigeons. That's someone. Bird. A bird. Yeah, they used to tie little notes onto a pigeon's leg, and then they would fly. I don't know how they trained them to do that. They fly to one place. They get some snacks, and then they change out the note, and they fly back. It's pretty interesting. Certain kind of harrier or carrier pigeons. Okay. So here was sort of the cycle of development. Is you guys can all put your hands down now. So, people used to also communicate like by fire and smoke signals and drums and things like that. Yeah, it must take some patience. So yeah, mail and telegraph. Remember, telegraph is like a coded message sent over a wire. And then telephones. When I was a kid, the big thing was a cordless phone. Or maybe more like when I was in my, maybe late end of high school, started to have cordless phones. And we used to also have these message machine things. My neighbor still has one, a message machine. And then we got cell phones, now digital smartphones. Yeah, so that's like the progress. Has development changed communication? So everyone in the chat, please. Has development changed communication? Y'all can put your hands down now. Yes, of course it has. But how has it? How has? It should be how has. It's obvious it has. Gotten faster. Good, Dustin. The way we talk. We can text now. It's funny, texting is kind of like going back to the telegraph in a way. It's easier to reach people who are farther away. Yeah, I remember when my sister spent a year in Spain, the only way to communicate was through telephone, and you might pay up to $1 a minute to talk on the telephone. Super expensive. It's a lot more instantaneous, exactly. Okay, well now let's look at the economy and how it affects economy. So remember, a method is a particular form or procedure for accomplishing or approaching something. Technological methods aim to improve organized time or energy in different ways. So we're reviewing a U.S. history and even world history, the industrial revolution. So how did, what method improvement did Henry Ford of the Ford Motor Company introduce to manufacturing, the manufacturing industry? Anybody remember that? What Henry Ford did? The vacation, giving his employees vacation, he did take really a lot better care of his employees, especially by paying them more. But the method improvement was the assembly line. Thank you, Santana. And yeah, they might have had a day off, something like that. The moving assembly line. And giving them much higher wages. I think he paid like double the wages of the average factory at the time. So mass production and then assembly line facilitated that. So the technology, the technological advancement that revolutionized production was the assembly line. So here you can see it's kind of like little train tracks, car or conveyor belt, and the car comes down the track. And then what it did was it allowed workers to specialize. So you had wheel makers and engine makers and window makers and roof makers and things like axle makers and things like that. So that's called worker specialization. It also sped up production, reduced waste, reduced costs, and that increased profits. So now we're going to have a quiz right here. Are you ready for it? Assembly lines are still used today. Somebody was saying something about a Mustang. There's your Mustang right there. So before they used to be up on these tracks, now they're just on these little conveyor belts. And then in the modern ones, there's a lot of robots doing stuff. So, you know, you got to understand also that the economics of paying your workers more. So the idea that if he paid his workers more, he figured out the math so that if he paid the workers a certain amount, they would be able to afford the cars themselves. Because before, cars were only for wealthy people. So just imagine if the cheapest car today was $100,000. Not very many people that make a working wage would be able to afford it, right? So so the average, say the average person makes $40,000 a year, $30,000 a year. If you double that, so you're making $60,000 a year, then you're going to have some extra money, and then you set up a finance plan where you pay 10% down, and then it comes out directly out of your paycheck. So this really increased the amount of cars that Ford started selling, and other car companies too. And the factory owners hated it, but it ended up helping because, and this is like this whole thing where companies don't want to pay people minimum wage of $15, where, you know, the way I see it is that if you start paying people more, then it's gonna allow them to purchase more products and stimulate the economy from the bottom up. So, the question here, so if producers can make goods more easily, more quickly, and with less money, they can increase their, well, so it is income, yes, Josh, but what do we call the income after expenses? Very good, Michael. We got two Michaels in a row answering the correct answer. So your income, you got your income and then your expenses, and then what's left over after that is called profit. Okay, profit. There it is there, profit. Okay. So prices go down when there's more supplies, and then, or is it more supply? So producers are always looking for technological improvements to increase their productivity, right? So let's see, yeah, so you're making a car. If you can produce more cars, then it becomes, why is it cheaper if you can produce more cars faster? How does that make the expenses go down? So if they're producing cars faster, why do the expenses go down so much? Well, so what's the biggest cost in making a car? And let's just say it's not the steel. The assembly, exactly. It's the labor. Usually it's the labor. And the biggest expenses in many service industries, even though it's obviously not a service industry, it's a product industry, but still, let's just say steel was really cheap, and oil was really cheap to run the machines, but the labor cost being constant, the faster you can produce cars. So if it costs you $100 to pay your workers for the day, and then you produce one car per day, so that costs you $100 in labor cost to make that car. But if you could produce 5 cars in one day with the same amount of labor, how much is the cost of making that car? The labor cost. Well, it was $100 when they were making 1 per day, so if they're making 5 per day, same amount of labor, what's the cost of that car? $20. Good. $20. It's a fifth. Okay, so 1/5 of 100 is 20. Okay, so 5 cars, $100, $20 each. Okay, so that's what this assembly line did. Okay, so can someone read this for me? Why do we care about productivity? Can someone read the law of supply and demand, this area? Okay, great. Thanks, Chloe. Go, Chloe. Go, Chloe. You can read it. She's got her hand up. She's ready. She didn't really have her hand up, did she? I mean, she just left it up. All right, Josh, go for it.
Law of supply and demand. When supply increases, prices drop. When technology makes production more efficient, there is usually more supply. That brings down the price of those goods. When the price of a good drops, more people can afford to buy the good, so producers make more sales and more profits.
There it is. All right, so Dustin, did you want to read that second part there? Greater productivity brings cheaper goods to more. Go for it. Or Lexi, someone grab the mic. Whoever grabs the mic first, go.
Oh, yikes. Greater productivity brings cheaper goods to more people and wealth to producer. Producers use some of this wealth to develop even better technologies, further increasing productivity.
All right, so this is sort of like excellent. Thank you for reading. It's kind of like a ripple effect or a domino effect in a way. But we say ripple because it's more circular. It's not just one line. So this is kind of how it went, right? So here's when Henry Ford introduced the assembly line. There were cheaper cars. So that there was an increase in car purchases by his workers and other people. Then when there's economic activity, when a car is sold, people have to pay sales tax, and then the Ford company making more profit, they're going to have to pay more tax, and some of those taxes go to the government. They go to the local government, the state government, or the federal government. And so with the increase in revenue to the government, then they can build more roads, right? So the government builds more roads. Then, because there's more roads going out of the cities, then you could develop suburbs like this here, and people could drive and live in the country, and the housing's cheaper. They could live in a nicer environment, and so that happened. Then people started commuting, so that increases the sale of oil, gasoline, right? So that's another impact. So then also tourism increased. So then people had cars, they had more money, they had more leisure time. They could start driving And maybe that's why he gave them days off, so they could want to drive their car for fun. And so then they built more hotels and attractions like, you know, theme parks, these kinds of things. Okay? All right. So, yeah. I don't know where you live, but where I live too, there's been some road construction going on for years. Okay. So here's this ripple effect, okay? More cars, lower prices of cars, more roads, rise in suburbs, so then houses are being built, even more roads are being built, parks are being built, libraries are being built, food stores, bowling alleys, you know, all these things just as a result of the assembly line. Tourism. Now another aspect, so there's manufacturing, so you make a product, right? And then what do you have to do with that product? So you sell it, right? So you sell it to everyone that's around your factory. But then what about all the people that live in the countryside, in smaller towns? Okay? So then you increase your distribution. You buy a truck to deliver your products. You know, maybe you've seen those trucks with cars on them. You build a truck that can carry cars, or you just drive the cars out to the smaller towns. And so increase in productivity, price go down, more goods are available to consumers, and then an increase in distribution happens. And again, then prices go down because the company's selling more products. They lower their prices, more people can afford them, and it's just this ripple effect out and out and out. Okay, so now here's another activity for y'all. Which of the following are some ways that technology affects the game of economics? So circle all the ones, circle all the things listed here that are examples of how technology affects the game of economics. And let's take a minute to do that. Circle all the things. Go. Burpees. After you circle, you could do 5 burpees for free. Did I say something? Heard somebody say something, didn't I? Okay, look at that. You will not burpee. Come on, Dustin. I know you can do it. Did I take that? Did I just take that? I think I did. Or let just go. Okay. Let's see if you're right. So the red ones are correct. So technology lowers prices. Let's look at this one. Changing everyone's methods of doing things, not necessarily by making people buy more electronic devices. That is true, but we're not saying that's the correct one here. Making sure everyone does everything the same way, not necessarily. But it does increase supply and demand. It increases productivity, and it speeds up distribution. So remember, everything used to be transported by people or horses or, you know, donkeys and things like that. Oxen. And so distribution methods like trains, planes, and automobiles. What is this? Is this class over? Is this class over now? Yes, it is. All right, here's your exit ticket. On the next slide, so which goal increases with technology? So is it efficiency, equity, security, freedom, and why? You could skip the why part because we ran over time. Great, thank you for raising your hand. So that's how you know what box to write in. And then once you fill in which one you think it is, efficiency, equity, security, freedom, then you could take off. Well, Justin, you are going to perish if you don't do burpees. You're going to perish. You're not going to live as long. Burpees are a necessity of life. There it is. Now, if you need help with anything, or if you need help with anything, put your question in the chat, or if you just have a question, put it in the chat, and I will be here. I'll see you Thursday.